Please introduce yourself.
So my name is Ayodiji Taiwo. I've been living in Germany for about 9 years now. I studied here also in Germany, got a PhD in geophysics, and I work now as a consultant in the area of technology.
In all these years that you have been living in Germany, what has changed?
So many things will change about you when you stay here. For example, I used to be a very, very open person before, but when you stay in a society whereby people are a bit closed, before you know it, you also adapt some of these qualities too. So I guess I became a bit more closed off since I got there. And there's one interesting thing about me that changed also, which is my attitude towards, money and giving it out. For example, in Nigeria, it's very common to say something like, "Oh, I need this assistance from you," and you depend on people for financial assistance. But here in Germany, everybody's expected to be independent, and so this independence is something that I learned. It has its good sides, which means that you are able to do things for yourself and you're able to plan ahead. It also has the bad sides, in which the sense that sometimes you need that community to support you, and it's sometimes lacking here. And I know many people here who were raised and grown up here, they'll be in financial difficulties, for example, and they'll be unable to ask anybody for help just because it's not what they're used to. So I would say I gained so much independence here financially, and that's something that I consider to be a net positive.
Have you had any negative experiences while living in Germany?
Indeed, anywhere you stay, you will have good and bad experiences. I've had good experiences, I've also had negative experiences. Of course, one of the negative experiences that we all at some point to experience as African people is with racism, and you would have situations where people discriminate against you, or people try to take advantage of you because they feel like maybe you don't know the law as a black person, or maybe they feel like you are going to be afraid to go through the legal process because as a black person you think that you have no rights. So I've had these kind of experiences before. What I can assure you is that some individual people might be racist, but the system can also be on your side, as long as you try your best to also stay within the framework of the law. So negative experiences are there from racism. Negative experiences are there from sometimes the way things are done, and one of the negative experiences that many of us in Munich particularly experience is the difficulty in securing accommodation, and where your skin color actually plays a role whether you like it or not. And if you are not fortunate enough to meet good landlords, you would find it a hard time to find a place to live in Munich. I had this experience myself also, and I guess one way of overcoming it is by coming around, meeting different kind of German people, and letting them see who you are. For example, knowing you for who you are, as opposed to just judging you by your skin color, and then they'll be on your side and they would assist you and help you to do the things you want to do.
Which advice would you give to anyone who is coming to Germany based on your own experiences in the last 9 years?
Advice would be that keep an open mind. It's different from your country, so they're going to do things differently. Understand that the way of life, what people value here is different from the things that we value in Nigeria. We value, for example, community in Nigeria, but people are very, very isolated here. So prepare your mind for the culture shock, and try to come here with enough finances or with a plan for yourself, because it's very easy to get into debt here and go from credit card to credit card if you're not properly well planned. And keep in mind that when you get here, don't discard the African community. I see people who come here and they say things like, "I don't care about the African community. Allow me to speak Yoruba a bit." Like, what's my problem with the other African people like myself? No, there are always things to gain from your own people and things to gain from the German or white people here. So try to balance this community, because at the end of the day, both communities come in handy.
Have you experienced any culture shock during your time here?
Indeed, I would say I've experienced lots of culture shock. So, for example, one of the things that I experienced here was that with our African food. So I've lived in some apartments whereby when you try to cook our kind of food, the neighbors begin to come and complain to you like, "Oh, what's smelling here?" and things like that. And the way out of this is to basically stand your ground and say, "See, I'm not cooking poison, and what I'm cooking is something that's legally available, and so it's not my fault that you cannot cope with the smell." So you have to stand your ground on certain things, and when you stand your ground here, I realize that the people here then respect you more. Of course, you have to be right. You cannot be wrong and then keep standing your ground. But as long as you are right and you stand up for yourself, people here respect you more. And one other thing that's a culture shock for me was how people are operating on the same level here, whether old or young. Two of my closest friends, or three of them here, are people who are over 60. One of them is 67, one of them is 62, and the other one is 60, I think. And we are really, really close. They come to my house, I visit them, and we do things together. And we talk as if we are mates, even though these people are in my parents' age group. This is not something that's very common in Nigeria, whereby when you see such people, you have to bend your head down to greet them. You cannot even sit down with them and say you are sitting down to talk less of, so that's it.
What would you say is the misconception that Germans have about Africa or Africans in general?
So one misconception is that some people think that we don't have a proper way of doing things back home, and they think that the slums that they see on TV are the things that exist everywhere. So they think that Africa or Nigeria is just divided into two: slums and a few extremely rich people. And these kind of things are also reinforced by the kind of documentaries that are produced. Recently there was a documentary that was produced by the ZDF about Lagos State, and it portrayed Lagos State as a place where we have makoko, and then we have a few people who are spending millions of naira at the club every Friday. And so these kind of things are fed to the people, and so they don't really understand who we are. Another misconception is that they think that many of us are scammers. So I remember having interactions with some German people, and in the beginning stages I noticed their skepticism, and until they got to know me and then trust me, it was not flowing easily. And so related to this is the fact that unfortunately this now means that everywhere I go I have to introduce myself with my PhD title, because it's something that now gives me respect when they see, oh, it's a doctor. For example, recently I got a German citizenship, and I made sure that I put this doctor title in my passport, so that when people see it, they can understand that this guy was not just here as, I don't know, whatever status with it, and then got our document. He actually worked for it, And I noticed that whenever people see my passport or my ID card and they see doctor there, then they offer me more respect, which I think should not be so, but unfortunately it's what it is.
Do you think Africans are well represented in the workplace in Germany?
Definitely not. So, and I think this has a couple of reasons attached to it. On the one hand, you have the fact that many of the African people that are here, they came in through the asylum process initially. It's only recently, maybe in the past 10 years, that we started having Africans coming here for university studies or for work. And even in the last 2-3 years, people are coming directly on work visas. So we are few here in the workplace, in the formal workplace. Even in the informal workplace, we are also few, because many people who come on asylum visas, they stay on the asylum visas before they are deported, or they have to hide around in the country, so they're not even working. And so we're not represented well in blue-collar work, we're also not represented well in white-collar work. But whenever the Germans see a good performing African person, they're always very, very impressed, and they like to give opportunities. And I'll just give a quick example. When I was in my PhD, my advisor saw that I made some very good progress in my research, and for this reason, there was a particular award the university was giving out. He recommended me the same way that other professors recommended their own students, and I was one of the people that got this award.
What would you say to Africans who intend to come to Germany?
So I would say that prepare your mind for a culture shock, a different way of doing things. Prepare your mind for the weather shock. Try and accumulate some savings before you come. Have a plan for yourself financially. Stay optimistic. Don't forget your African brothers and sisters who are here, because they can also be of support to you.
Lastly, do you intend to live in Germany permanently?
That's a very difficult question to answer, because on the one hand, I really enjoy being in Nigeria. And on the other hand, you stay here long enough, it already becomes your second home, and sometimes you plan to move back, but you end up not going. But in any case, I wish to also spend my time in Nigeria, and that requires me then making some investments back home, so that one can have something to go back to. And I think a hybrid kind of life is what would be ideal for me, where I can spend several months at a stretch in Nigeria, and I can also come here and stay several months at a stretch. But that then requires a kind of independence in your work style, whether remote working or entrepreneurship, that allows you to go between both countries as often as you want. That would be my ideal plan.
Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you are able to get 1 or 2 tips from Ifatomise. And on to the next video. See you guys.